Congratulations, you have made it this far in your Dopey Challenge training. We are about 2 months out right now from the main event, and I am so excited to see you guys all on course. It is going to be an epically good time, and all of those miles will be super magical. That is, if you have trained appropriately for the race that you want to have. One of the questions that I see going around the community a bunch, and I get asked a lot in my Dopey training, is since the Dopey ends in a marathon, what is the longest run that I need to do? Now, there are a lot of opinions out there about how far you need to run, and with Dopey training, there's a lot of opinions about how many days in a row you need to run and how you need to properly prepare. And I know a lot of people are doing the run-walk combo. This same advice goes for that. It doesn't matter how you're going to finish those miles, if you're going to walk those miles, if you're going to run those miles, or if you're going to run-walk those miles. The answer that I'm about to provide is going to be the same. Now, since it's the Dopey, I believe that you need to have several weeks where you are doing 4 days of your preferred mode, walking, running, run, walking, 4 days of that in a row. And if you're following the physical therapy for everybody plan, what you're noticing is that those 4 runs are getting more in line with the distance that we're going to see out on the Dopey course. Particularly what you'll see is that the Friday run, which is the half marathon run in our plan, is getting to be a little bit longer, as well as obviously the Saturday, which is the marathon length day, is getting longer as well. Now, in our plan, we're only doing that every other week because we don't want to overtax our bodies. So we do want our bodies to be prepared for the 4 days in a row, but we want to make sure that there's enough rest for our bodies as well to avoid any minor injuries. And how long should your long run be? Again, everybody has a different opinion on this. However, I believe that your long run needs to be a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 24 miles. Here's why. I believe that pixie dust can carry you those last couple of miles if you're having a really hard time. However, it is mentally challenging to stand at the start line of a marathon, 26.2 miles, if you have never run a distance that's close to that. And add to the fact that when you're standing at that start line, you've already been running 3 days in a row. So it's not just thinking about the physical challenge of having a marathon at the end of that, it's also thinking about the mental challenge. You're probably going to be tired because I'm assuming that none of us is going to be able to sleep that well for those 4 nights. And those mornings are really early in the morning. And any mental challenge gets more challenging when we're tired. So it's not just the physical challenge, it's thinking about that mental challenge. What I want for you is I want you to be able to stand at the start line and have your body and have your brain saying, there's no way I can run a marathon. And I want you to have that evidence to be able to provide yourself. I can run a marathon because I have run blank number of miles before. I have run 24 miles before. Now, I will say, if you're using the physical therapy for everybody plan, the longest run is actually 21 miles. The reason for this is because this plan is specifically adapted from a marathon training program. Now, that marathon training program had 24 miles as the longest run. However, it didn't have 4 consecutive days of running in a row because it was just for a marathon. It wasn't for the Dopey. As we adjusted it and looked at what that training program should look like, it's going to be really hard to run more than 21 miles when you're having to make that distance the day before to replicate that half marathon. And we were concerned about any minor injuries or fatigue that would come from doing that long of a distance 4 days in a row. According to our plan, your longest run is 21 miles. In general, for people who are using different plans, what I recommend is that your longest run should be between 20 to 24 miles. That way you can make sure that when you're standing on that start line, you can tell your brain, no, I can do this because I've done something very similar before. And I can tell you from running the marathon before that once you get into Disney Studios and you're running through the hotels and Epcot, I know they changed the course this year, but as we get to those later miles, there's more stuff to see and look at and all of that kind of stuff. And that really does help carry you through. I'm running with Team Hope Story, and I would really appreciate a contribution that will be met 100% by physical therapy for everybody. The thing that I love about Hope Story is that they are dedicated to providing mentoring and education and support for families who have a child who's recently been diagnosed with Down syndrome. Now, another thing I want you to really be focused on, and please, friends, I cannot emphasize this enough, that when you are doing that long run, I want you to be doing it in the gear and with the nutrition and with the hydration that you are planning on doing on marathon day. You may have tried your gear on a shorter run and it was fine, but something could happen as you're doing that longer distance. Maybe your shoes are fine for a shorter distance, but a longer distance, you start developing some blisters. We're at the point in the program now where each run needs to be done in the gear that you're planning to wear during the race. Now, I understand for some of you, you may live in colder climates and you're like, I can't do that. But hopefully you already did that before, or you might be someone who can go ahead and do that on a treadmill. But please, I cannot emphasize it enough. Make sure you have done a long distance run that's at least 20 to 24 miles. And please make sure that you have checked your gear on that distance, that you have checked your nutrition on that distance, and that you have checked your hydration on the distance, so that when you get to that final day of that Dopey challenge, you are ready to go to race the race you came to do.